What would you do if you found your 6-year-old daughter, who hasn't spoken a single word in 3 years, laughing and playing an invisible piano on a park bench with a homeless woman? This grieving billionaire was left trembling when he uncovered the shocking identity of this stranger. The decision he makes next will intertwine 3 broken destinies forever and leave you with tears in your eyes. If you enjoy stories that touch the soul and remind us of the power of compassion, please subscribe to our channel and like this video to support our work. Thank you, and may blessings find their way to you. It was a biting, grey Tuesday afternoon in late November when Arthur Sterling returned early from his headquarters in downtown Chicago. At 39 years old, Arthur was a titan of the tech industry, a man who had revolutionized artificial intelligence systems, yet his own heart had operated on a cold, binary code of grief since the tragic passing of his wife, Eleanor, 3 years prior. His sprawling estate on the shores of Lake Michigan, a modern fortress of glass and steel, was as frigid and empty as his spirit. The only pulse of life in that silent mausoleum was Lily, his 6-year-old daughter. But Lily had been swallowed by the silence too. Since her mother's funeral, the child had fallen into a profound, selective mutism, a fortress of quiet that no therapist, doctor, or specialist had been able to breach. That afternoon, the air in the house felt heavier than usual, charged with a frantic energy that made the hairs on the back of Arthur's neck stand up the moment he crossed the threshold. His housekeeper, Mrs. Gable, usually a pillar of stoic efficiency, came rushing down the grand marble staircase, her face pale and contorted with sheer terror. "Mr. Sterling. Oh God, Mr. Sterling, Lily is gone." I turned my back for 1 minute to answer the service door, and she vanished. She screamed, her voice cracking under the weight of panic. The world seemed to tilt on its axis for Arthur. His breath hitched in his throat, his briefcase dropping to the floor with a hollow thud that echoed like a gunshot in the vast foyer. Lily was not just his daughter. She was the last tether keeping him attached to humanity. Without a second thought, ignoring the freezing temperature outside, he bolted from the mansion, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Arthur ran through the manicured streets of the upscale neighborhood, his expensive Italian loafers slipping on the patches of black ice that coated the sidewalks. He screamed her name, "Lily, Lily," his voice tearing through the icy wind, but the silence that returned was deafening. Security teams were deployed, the police were dialed, but Arthur could not wait. Every second that ticked by felt like a physical blow. He imagined the freezing lake, the heavy traffic of the nearby boulevard, the darkness of the woods. The anguish was a physical weight, crushing his lungs. 40 agonizing minutes passed, an eternity in the hell of a parent's worst nightmare, before his phone buzzed with a location from one of his private security guards. "Sir, we found her. She's at the edge of Lincoln Park, near the old conservatory." Arthur sprinted. He ran until his lungs burned, and the cold air tasted like iron in his mouth. He burst into the clearing near the park's entrance, his eyes scanning frantically, prepared for the worst. But nothing could have prepared him for the tableau that awaited him. There, sitting on a weathered wooden bench under a bare oak tree, was his little Lily. But she wasn't alone. Beside her sat a woman who looked like a shadow of a person, wrapped in layers of oversized, grime-stained coats, her hair matted and hidden beneath a tattered woolen hat. She was unmistakably living on the streets, her fingerless gloves exposing red, chapped skin. Arthur's instinct was a primal surge of protective rage and relief. What was his fragile, silent daughter doing with this vagrant? He prepared to rush forward, to snatch his child away, but his feet rooted to the frozen ground as he drew closer. He heard a sound that stopped his heart cold. It was a melody. The woman was humming, a complex, hauntingly beautiful classical piece, and her hands were moving in the air, fingers dancing over an invisible keyboard on her lap. And Lily was mimicking her. The little girl's small hands were moving in perfect rhythm with the woman's, and for the first time in 3 years, there was a light in Lily's eyes that Arthur thought had been extinguished forever. A small, silent giggle escaped his daughter's lips. "That's it, little one. Feel the crescendo," the woman whispered, her voice surprisingly melodic, cultured, and soft. devoid of the harshness one might expect from a life on the brutal streets. Music isn't in the keys, it's in the heart. Even without a piano, the music is there. "Lily!" Arthur finally choked out, the name tearing from his throat. The spell broke. Lily looked up, her smile fading slightly as she saw her father's terrified face, but she didn't run to him in fear. She simply pointed at the woman, her eyes pleading. The woman froze, slowly lowering her hands, pulling them into the sleeves of her dirty coat as if ashamed. She stood up, revealing a slight limp, and lowered her head, avoiding Arthur's gaze. I didn't mean any harm, sir," the woman said, her voice trembling but maintaining a dignity that seemed at odds with her appearance. "She looked lonely. She was just watching the birds, and I just wanted to show her that they have a rhythm." Arthur stepped closer, his initial anger dissipating as he studied the stranger. Beneath the grime on her face, he saw high cheekbones and eyes of a piercing, intelligent emerald green. Eyes that held a depth of sorrow that mirrored his own. "You know classical music," Arthur stated. It wasn't a question. He had recognized the piece. It was Rachmaninoff. "You were teaching her the fingering for a concerto." "I used to know many things," the woman replied quietly, clutching a plastic bag that likely contained all her worldly possessions. "I am sorry if I frightened you. I will leave." She began to shuffle away, the cold wind whipping at her inadequate clothing. Lily surged forward, grabbing the hem of the woman's dirty coat. She looked back at her father, and with a fierce intensity, shook her head no. It was the most communication she had offered him in months. Arthur felt a lump form in his throat. He looked at the woman, really looked at her, and saw not a threat, but a human being who had treated his daughter with a tenderness he had struggled to express through his own grief. "Wait," Arthur called out, the command softer than he intended. "What is your name?" The woman paused, her shoulders tense. She turned slowly. "Elena, my name is Elena Vance." "Elena," Arthur repeated, testing the weight of it. "I am Arthur. This is Lily. You made her smile. She hasn't smiled since her mother died." The vulnerability in his own admission shocked him. Were you a teacher?" Elena's eyes glistened, an unshed tear catching the weak winter light. "I was a concert pianist once, a long time ago, or perhaps in another life." Arthur looked at her hands, hidden in the sleeves. He made a decision then, a chaotic, irrational decision that went against every corporate instinct he possessed, but resonated with the desperate love of a father. "Please don't go. My daughter, she connects with you. I can't explain it, but she does. I want to offer you something." Elena looked at him with skepticism, stepping back. "I don't need charity, sir. I get by." "It's not charity," Arthur insisted, stepping forward, ignoring the stench of the streets that clung to her. "It's a job. Lily needs someone. The specialists, the doctors, they treat her like a broken machine. You treated her like a musician. Come to my home, shower, eat, rest, and if you're willing, teach her. Just teach her whatever it was you were doing on this bench." The proposition hung in the icy air. Elena looked from the desperate billionaire to the little girl with the hopeful eyes. A snowflake landed on her eyelash. She had nowhere to go, the shelter was full, and the temperature was dropping tonight. "You would let someone like me into your home," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You don't know what people say about me." "I don't care about people," Arthur said firmly. "I care about Lily." The drive back to the mansion was silent. Eleanor sat in the back of the heated luxury SUV, trying to make herself as small as possible so as not to dirty the leather seats. Lily sat right beside her, holding the edge of her tattered sleeve. When they arrived at the estate, Elena was visibly overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the wealth. The glass walls, the modern art, the warmth that enveloped them. It was a world she had been exiled from. Arthur instructed Mrs. Gable to prepare the guest suite in the East Wing and to find some clean clothes. The housekeeper was appalled, sniffing disdainfully at Elena, but she obeyed Arthur's stern glance. "Treat her as a guest, Mrs. Gable, no questions." That first evening was a transformation. After a long, hot shower, her first in months, Eleanor emerged wearing a simple, soft grey wool dress that Mrs. Gable had found. With the layers of grime washed away, her hair combed out into soft chestnut waves, Elena was striking. She was thin, painfully so, her collarbones sharp against her skin, and she looked older than her 34 years, worn down by survival. But her elegance was undeniable. Arthur was sitting in the living room with a glass of whiskey when she entered. He stood up, momentarily speechless. "Elena?" "Thank you, Arthur," she said, clutching her hands together. The water, the warmth. I had forgotten what it felt like to not be cold. They sat for dinner, and although Elena ate slowly, with a disciplined restraint despite her hunger, Arthur could see the gratitude in every bite. Lily sat next to her, pushing her vegetables around but occasionally looking at Elena for reassurance. "Tell me," Arthur said gently, once the plates were cleared. "How does a concert pianist end up on a bench in Lincoln Park in the middle of winter?" Elena flinched, the light in her eyes dimming. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling on the tablecloth. "I was married. His name was Marcus Thorne. He was charming, a corporate lawyer, very successful. We were the golden couple of the Chicago arts scene." She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I was traveling for recitals, gaining recognition. But Marcus, he didn't like the spotlight not being on him. He started to control everything. My finances, my schedule, my friends." Arthur listened, his jaw tightening. He knew the type. Men who viewed women as acquisitions, not partners. "He began to gaslight me," Elena continued, tears spilling over. "He would hide my sheet music and tell me I lost it. He would tell our friends I was having episodes, that I was unstable. When my parents died and left me their estate, Marcus made his move. He staged an incident. He claimed I attacked him. With his legal connections and the seeds of doubt he'd planted for years, he had me committed for observation. By the time I got out, 3 months later, he had liquidated everything. He claimed I was mentally incompetent. He took the house, the money, my reputation. I tried to fight, but who believes the crazy artist against the respected lawyer? I lost my license to teach. My agent dropped me. I ended up with nothing." "Why didn't you fight back?" Arthur asked, his heart aching for the injustice of it. "I tried. But poverty is a trap, Arthur. You can't hire a lawyer when you can't afford bread. You can't go to an interview when you haven't showered in a week. You disappear. You become invisible." Arthur reached across the table, covering her trembling hand with his own. The contact was electric, startling them both. "You are not invisible here, Elena. You are seen." The days turned into weeks, and the change in the Sterling household was nothing short of miraculous. Elena didn't just teach Lily piano, she taught her how to feel again. They didn't use a real piano at first. Elena used the method of table practice, tapping rhythms on the kitchen island, on the floor, on the windows. She hummed melodies, and slowly Lily began to hum back. The house, once silent, began to fill with sound. Not noise, but music. Now, before we continue with this incredible journey of healing, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt that music or a kind word saved you when you were at your lowest? We are building a community of support here. If you believe in the power of second chances, write "I believe" in the comments below. Your interaction helps us share these stories with more people who might need hope today. One evening, Arthur came home to hear a sound that stopped him in the hallway. It was the grand Steinway in the main drawing room, a piano that hadn't been touched since Eleanor played it. But this wasn't Eleanor's hesitant, gentle playing. This was a tempest. It was music that stormed and wept. He walked in quietly to find Elena at the keys, her eyes closed, her body swaying with the intense emotion of the piece. Lily was sitting under the piano, curled up with a blanket, eyes wide, looking peaceful. Elena played with a raw passion that spoke of all her suffering, her loss, and her resilience. When she finished, the final chord hung in the air, vibrating in Arthur's chest. "I haven't touched a piano in 2 years," Elena whispered, not turning around, sensing his presence. "You play like an angel who has walked through hell," Arthur said, moving to stand beside the piano. "And you've brought my daughter back to me." It was true. Lily had started whispering words to Elena, just small things like water, play, pretty, but it was a start. As Christmas approached, the bond between the three of them deepened into something profound. Elena organized small decorations, making paper snowflakes with Lily, avoiding the expensive, cold decorations Arthur usually hired a firm to install. The house felt like a home, and Arthur found himself rushing home from work, not out of duty, but out of a desperate need to see Elena's smile, to hear her voice. He was falling for her. The woman who had worn rags was now the queen of his heart. But happiness, fragile as it is, often invites a storm before it can take root. Arthur wanted to surprise Elena. There was a winter charity gala at the Symphony Center, the highlight of the social season. He knew she missed the world of music. He bought her a dress, a deep emerald green velvet gown that matched her eyes, and presented it to her. "Arthur, I can't," she stammered, touching the fabric with reverence. "People will recognize me. They know Marcus. They know the lies." "Let them look," Arthur said, his eyes fierce. "You are with me now, and tonight you are not the victim. You are the guest of honor of Arthur Sterling. No one will dare touch you." Reluctantly, but trusting him, Elena agreed. When she descended the stairs that night, she took Arthur's breath away. She looked regal, beautiful, and despite her fear, she held her head high. Lily clapped her hands and for the first time spoke a full sentence loud and clear. "You look like a princess, Elena." Arthur and Elena both froze, in tears springing to their eyes. That sentence was the best gift Arthur could have received. He kissed Lily's forehead, promising to tell her all about it, and whisked Elena away to the ball. The Symphony Center was glittering with lights and the city's elite. As they entered, a hush fell over the room. Arthur Sterling was rarely seen and never with a date. In this woman, mystery and beauty combined, sparked immediate whispers. Elena gripped Arthur's arm, her knuckles white, but he covered her hand, anchoring her. They were enjoying the reception, Arthur introducing her simply as Elena, a dear friend and brilliant musician, when a voice cut through the ambient chatter like a serrated knife. "Well, well, if it isn't the mad pianist!" Elena went rigid. She didn't need to turn around to know who it was, Marcus Thorne. He approached them, holding a glass of champagne, looking smug and polished in a tuxedo. A younger woman hung on his arm, looking bored. "I must say, Elena, you clean up well. I assumed you were still rotting in a gutter somewhere." Arthur stepped forward, his body shielding Elena. "Step away, Thorne. You are not welcome in our conversation." Marcus laughed, a cold, cruel sound. "Oh, Arthur Sterling, the White Knight. Do you know what you've picked up? This isn't a damsel in distress. She's a mental case. I had to have her committed for her own safety. She's unstable. Did she tell you she can't even hold a tempo without having a breakdown? That she's barren? That she's damaged goods?" The crowd had gone silent. The cruelty of the words hung heavy in the air. Eleanor was trembling, tears streaming down her face, the shame of the past threatening to swallow her whole again. She turned to run, but Arthur caught her hand. He didn't let go. Arthur looked at Marcus with a calm, terrifying intensity. "I know everything, Marcus. I know she is a concert pianist of rare genius. I know she is a woman of integrity who survived a monster like you. And I know she is the only person who could heal my daughter when the rest of the world failed." He turned to the crowd, raising his voice slightly. "This woman," he said, pulling Elena closer, "is not damaged goods. She is the most resilient, compassionate person I have ever met. And the fact that you, Thorne, had to destroy her to feel powerful only proves how small you really are." Arthur turned back to Marcus, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "And by the way, my legal team has been looking into the transfer of assets from the Vance estate 3 years ago. We found some very interesting discrepancies in your filings. You'll be hearing from the district attorney on Monday. Enjoy your champagne. It might be your last for a while." Marcus paled, the arrogance draining from his face as the crowd began to murmur, turning their backs on him. Security stepped forward to escort him out. Arthur turned to Elena, wiping a tear from her cheek with his thumb. "Are you all right? You did that for me?" She sobbed softly. "I would do anything for you," Arthur confessed, the adrenaline of the moment stripping away his reserve. "I didn't bring you here just for the music, Elena. I brought you here because I wanted the world to see the woman I love." Elena gasped, her hands covering her mouth. You love me?" I loved you from the moment I saw you teaching my daughter to play an invisible piano in the freezing cold." Arthur smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. "You brought music back into a silent house. You brought life back to a dead man." Right there, amidst the murmurs of the Chicago elite, Arthur Sterling knelt on one knee. He didn't have a ring prepared, so he took off his own pinky ring, a family heirloom of gold and onyx, and held it out. "Elena Vance, will you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife? Will you help me fill our house with music forever?" Elena nodded, unable to speak, crying tears of pure joy. "Yes," she finally whispered. "Yes, Arthur, 1,000 times yes." The room erupted in applause, not polite golf claps, but genuine, raucous applause. The story of the billionaire and the pianist became the talk of the city, not as a scandal, but as a fairy tale. 6 months later, the Sterling estate was unrecognizable. The gardens were in full bloom, and chairs were set up on the lawn overlooking the lake. It was a warm June day. Elena stood at the start of the aisle, wearing a simple, elegant white dress that flowed like water. But she wasn't walking alone. Lily, looking angelic in a flower girl dress, held Eleanor's hand. "Ready, Mum?" Lily asked, her voice clear and sweet. "Ready, my love," Elena replied. They walked down the aisle together toward Arthur, who stood waiting with tears in his eyes. As they reached the altar, Arthur took both of their hands. The ceremony was intimate, filled with friends and the music of a string quartet. When they were pronounced husband and wife, and Arthur kissed Elena, a cheer went up that scared the seagulls off the lake. But the most beautiful moment came during the reception. Elena sat at the grand piano, which had been moved onto the terrace. She gestured for Lily to join her. Together, 4 hands on the keys, they played a duet, a complex, joyful piece that wove 2 melodies into one perfect harmony. Arthur watched them, his heart full, knowing that the silence was gone forever. They had all been broken, the grieving widower, the mute child, the homeless outcast. But together, they had composed a new life, a symphony of second chances that proved that no winter lasts forever, and no song is ever truly lost as long as there is someone to listen. The end. Thank you so much for spending your time with this story. It's a reminder that everyone we meet has a hidden battle and a hidden talent, and that love often finds us in the most unexpected places. We would love to hear from you. Join our community in the comments below. Tell us about a time someone gave you a chance when you didn't think you deserved it, or simply leave a heart to show your support. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story that warms the heart. Until next time, keep believing in the music of life.